Okay, we left off 2 dots on Mem Dalet Amud Beis. I had to put the lights on. I couldn't get out of the house otherwise. I didn't know which door to open. Okay. 2 dots. Thank you. Itmar, Ktana Shetiskacho. Shlo Dasovio. Now we're speaking about a totally different case. A minor cannot marry. If a minor enters into a marriage, it's not a valid marriage unless the father marries her off. So this Ketana, she marries Shlo Dasavia without the consent of the father, without the consent. So you'd say, definitely it's nothing. It means nothing, the marriage. Now, I just began discussing yesterday, there's a kiddushin drabanan. The Chachamim said that even if there's no father, if the mother or the brothers choose to marry off the sister or the daughter, rabbinically it's a valid marriage. Why do they recognize the marriage and why do they feel that marriage is important? Because now that she has a husband, the husband will take care of her and protect her not to be molested, sexually molested. That's the reason why they legislated this rabbinical marriage. Or there's a father. Wait, I didn't get there yet. But initially they said the mother and the brothers, who are adults, if they choose to marry her off, they have that right, because since the value of that is that she'll be in a protected state, and ultimately the husband will marry her when she becomes an adult, therefore it's something important. So we said, even though it's a rabbinical marriage, normally when a person gives a get, what is the get? The get doesn't annul the marriage retroactively. It terminates the marriage. A get is called sefer krisus. What is sefer krisus? It cuts it. It severs it. Meaning it exists till this moment, then it terminates the relationship. In regard to a rabbinical marriage, when the minor says, I've had enough, I want out, it's called miyun. She refuses to remain with the husband. Within the context of rabbinical marriage, it's not the refusal terminates as the get terminates, but rather the marriage is annulled retroactively. Okay? That's the difference. Miyun is retroactive. A get, it terminates it at that point going forward. It's as if she was never married. That means, let's say now she'd want to marry a Kohen. She can marry a Kohen. If she gets a get, rabbinically she can't marry a Kohen. Because she received the get. She's called the divorcee because the process of get is termination. She's been married, and now the marriage has been terminated. But miyun retroactively tells her she was never married. It's as if she was never married. Okay? Now, we'll see in a moment. Just as the mother or the brothers, if they choose to marry her off, it's valid. If she chooses to marry herself off, we'll see. Or the father already married her off and he no longer has any control over her, halachic control. Let's say he married her off, she went to chuppah, and as a minor she was divorced. So she left the domain of the father totally. Once she leaves the domain, she doesn't return. So now the father is no better than the mother and the brothers. So just as the mother and brothers rabbinically, if they choose to marry off the sister or the daughter, it's considered a rabbinic marriage. So if the father now marries her off, it's also rabbinical. Because she's totally left the domain of the father. No, only after Ersin. She only comes back only after Ersin. But after Nisuin, after Chuppah, she doesn't come back any longer.
So she has a status of a Bulgaris, a status of an adult.
No. Bulgaris, that has to do with who she is.
Fully married. Now she's divorced.
No. She's called Yisoma B'chayovio. She's like an orphan in the lifetime of a father. She has a father, but in terms of any halachic effect, the father has no effect on her life. Only for truma. Because she's a Bas Kohen. That's Bas Kohen. That has nothing to do with domain. That means that has to do because her identification. How does she identify? What if father died? Father's not alive. And she was divorced, she has no children. She was married to a non-Kohen, she has no children, and her father is no longer alive. She still eats truma. When it says she goes back to the father, so it means to identify with the family as a baskoi. But it's not she's under anybody's jurisdiction. Right? So once she leaves, she's out. If she fully leaves, if she leaves partially, it's only Erison, and now the husband should die or divorce her. So since she's still partially in the father's domain, the husband is the one who actually shared that domain. She's not here, so now she's fully in his domain. But if she left the domain, such as Chuppah and Nesuin, once she's out, she doesn't come back. Okay? So now the father is similar to the mother and the brothers. We'll see, even herself, if she chooses to marry herself off, also, it's considered valid, rabbinically. So if she would do miyun, in any one of these situations, says, I refuse to be with him any longer, the marriage is over, and it's annulled retroactively. It's as if she was never married.
So she married herself also. She still do miyun.
Yeah, definitely.
Even though she married herself.
Yes. She said, I had enough. Because she's a katana. Because that we see from the laws of Nedarim. The Torah tells us that if she marries, so the husband and the father jointly annul the vows, right? The first stage. But if she marries fully, the father, not only the husband. And then the Torah says, what happens if she becomes a widow of that? Then she has to go through the normal nullification process. The father has no relevance any longer. Even if she's a minor, it doesn't make a difference. Well, not a minor, a nara. A minor's vows are not vows. A minor, because she's left his jurisdiction. Right? No, a minor, same thing. Same thing. A minor's vows from 11 to 12 have value. She's a minor. Have value. Also. Okay. That's not the discussion of. Once she leaves the jurisdiction, she doesn't return any longer. Okay? So now over here, it said in the name of Shmuel that if a woman marries without the knowledge of the father, so Shmuel says she needs a get and she needs a miyun. Okay? So the question is, firstly, what does she need miyun? Yeah, but see, no, because he'd say this regarding the father. See, normally you'd say, what about she's under the jurisdiction of the father, and she marries somebody rabbinically? She does it on her own. Maybe it should be nothing. Maybe we shouldn't even acknowledge it, and it's a chiddush. This is shlo das aviyah. This is without her father's awareness. She has a father, and she does it without her father's awareness. Nevertheless, we're saying she still needs niyum. We acknowledge that marriage rabbinically. No, I'm just saying, but it's a chiddush. It's not just an ordinary rabbinic marriage here. Even though the father here, she's in his jurisdiction, but if she chooses to do that, we still value it. To terminate it, you would need miyun. So she needs miyun. What about get? Get for sure not. Get is only within the context of the Raisa. How she married on a Torah level, right? But Shmuel says she needs both. The question, why both? If she needs get, what does she need miyun? And if you're saying she needs miyun, that means it's rabbinical. So it's rabbinical, what do you need to get? Right? That's the enigma here. That's the difficulty. Oma Karno. Karno was one of the Dayonim. He says, Dvorim Begav. There's something which is enigmatic here. It's contradictory. Im get lama miyun. If she needs a get, that means we're acknowledging the marriage to be a Torah marriage. What does she need miyun? Miyun only has relevance to rabbinic marriage. Right? In miyun, and if we're only acknowledging it as a rabbinic marriage, lama get, what does she need to get? Okay? We didn't talk about retroactive. What I've been talking about, how the marriage is affected. Speaking about, is it rabbinic, is it doraisa? Get indicates it's a Torah marriage. Miyun indicates it's a rabbinic marriage. So, Karna says it's dvorim begav. Meaning, it has to be looked into. You understand, Shmuel is speaking. When Shmuel speaks, you can't dismiss it as saying, well, it doesn't make sense. It's nonsensical what he's saying. There's something here which is contradictory, but we have to look into it. Amru lei, so what do they say? Now, what was Shmuel's community? Shmuel's community was far away from their location, so they wanted to pose a question to try to understand Shmuel's position. So they said the Talmidim in the Beis Medrash, when they heard what Shmuel had said, Omru lei Homar Ukva Ubeidini Bekafri. Mar Ukva was the Rosh Bezdin, was the head of the Bezdin. He says he and his Bezdin, they're in Kafri, which was a community not far from where they were, and we'll pose the question to try to understand Shmuel. Afchua Shadri L'Kami Derav. What did they do? Rav and Shmuel had a special relationship. They had a special relationship, Rav and Shmuel. So they went and they inverted the positions. Rather than saying that Shmuel is the one who says that you need a get and miyun, they said Karn had said this, and Shmuel is the one who had difficulty understanding why you need both. No. When they presented the question to Rav, they said Karn is the one who said that in this situation she needs a get and miyun, and Shmuel, when he heard what Karn had said, he had difficulty accepting it because it seems to be contradictory. If it's one, it's not the other. Either it's rabbinical or it's the Raisa, but to have both, why should you need both? Okay? Amalu, so they sent it to Rav. So Shmuel is the one who had the difficulty with understanding Karna's position. That's the Rav was presented to Rav. Amalu holokim, it's like he took an oath. Tzricha geru tzricha miyun. He's definitely. She needs get and she needs miyun. It makes sense. What initially you said is enigmatic because it seems to be, it's A or B, it can't be both. Definitely. She needs both. V'chasle lezare da'aba barabo. The name Behochi. He says, and God should have rachmim on the progeny of the father of Shmuel for asking the question. Meaning it's understood you need both. It's interesting. Yeah, instead with Rav was something, we had the Gemara Chulin, if you remember. Rav originally was a Yerushalmi. Rav was not a Bavel. Later, Rav went to Bavel. Gemara says in Gittin that before Rav went to Bavel, there was no Torah in Bavel. There weren't yeshivas in Bavel. Rav came to Bavel, he established yeshivas in Bavel. This is post-Bayesheni. So Rabbi Yochanan said that they were in the same class of students. So he said that Rabbi Yochanan sat 18 rows, Rabbi Yochanan, 18 rows in front of him. And when he would engage with Rabbi Yudah Nasi in a Torah dialogue, he couldn't even keep up. He lost it. Could not keep up to follow the dialogue between Rav and Rabbi Yudah Nasi. This is Rabbi Yochanan speaking. Okay? So Rav initially, Karna had difficulty understanding what Shmuel's position. They inverted it, they presented to Rav. Immediately, he understands why you need both.
Did they do that just because, and why would they?
They did. Yeah, we'll see Rashi in a moment. They intentionally inverted it. I just heard a case, a very interesting case. It happened in Baltimore. There was this person who was who married this girl, and there was a question whether she had relations, whether she definitely was not a virgin. She wasn't a b'sula. She was not a b'sula. So there's when you write a ksuba, you can write a ksuba for a b'sula or a woman. It's not a b'sula. It's a different ksuba. It's a different language. So Moshe writes that sometimes you want it to be public knowledge. Even today, unfortunately, it's not an embarrassment any longer. But so Moshe said, because what are we dealing? We're dealing with it's just the question of the amount of money. How much the husband, if you die or divorce her, how much he has to pay. So if you want to obligate yourself to a greater degree, obligate yourself to a greater degree. It's not a problem. Or you have over there, you don't write psula, and when you read the ksuba, the one who's reading it knows that she's not, but he says psulta. He reads as if she is a virgin, right? It's no one's business exactly what her personal situation is. But here they wrote the ksuba, getting closer. They wrote the ksuba as she was a psula. So what came to light was that the reason why she wasn't a virgin, that she had relations with a goy. With a goy. A woman has relations with a goy is not qualified for a kohen. She's considered a defiled woman. So what would be, if she'll be divorced, it's not a problem. Let's say after she's married, subsequently she's divorced. So she's a divorcee. She's a divorcee. Kohen won't marry her. But let's say she's widowed. And then they look at the ksuba, and the ksuba says basulta. So, and she doesn't divulge, she doesn't reveal that she had relations with a goy before the first marriage. And she has the ksuba to prove that she was a virgin. So this is actually creating a problem. It's a stumbling block. So what they did was, they called up someone to ask the question. This happened in Baltimore just recently, a few months ago. And they said the ksuba definitely has to be, the ksuba is valid, it's a valid ksuba, but they should tear up the ksuba and a new ksuba has to be written because of this problem. The people should know, ultimately, because otherwise she could use the ksuba which says, Basulta, that she's a virgin in this particular situation. Even though he says, who says she's going to marry a Kohen? You never know. So therefore, to really be careful that this problem should not present itself, the ksuba has to be rewritten. Okay? And we'll see in a moment. The reason why you need the get and the miyun is also to cover all bases. Now, what's the halacha if a person, if you have a man married to a woman, you're not permitted to marry that woman's sister. You're not permitted to marry the sister. It's called achos isha. What about if you have a case where a man is married to a woman and he has other wives, co-wives, besides that woman? They're called tzoras erva. The co-wives, a man is married to a woman and he has two other wives. And his brother is married to the sister, two brothers married to two sisters. And let's say the marriage to the sister, the first marriage, is only rabbinic marriage. Is only rabbinic marriage. And before he dies, she walks out. She says, I'm not interested. So now, when he dies, since there's no connection between the co-wives and the sister any longer, they fall to Yibum. Right? They fall to Yibum to the surviving brother. But if, in fact, she is married to him, the sister is married to married to the deceased when he died, this is called tzoras erva. They're the co-wives of a woman, so therefore they all assume the identical status as the sister, and therefore none of them fall to Yibum. Because they assume this the forbidden status. Okay? What? No, I'm saying if there was a real marriage. I'm saying if there was a real marriage. Let's say she didn't do me. Keep going around. I'm saying if there was a real marriage, right? And then the brother dies. So when he died, all the co-wives were co-wives of a woman who was the sister of his wife. So they all assumed identical status. But if it's only, let's say, a rabbinical marriage, so what would be? What would be? So then, we'll see in a moment. Rabbinically, there's an attachment. We'll see in a moment.
Are we still talking in this case about a girl who only goes through the first stage? This question of get plus meaning, is it only the first stage or is it the second stage too? Well, what are we speaking about?
Right now we're speaking about, it could even be the second stage. It could even be the second. Either. Makes no difference.
So there's no difference.
Right, there's no difference. Correct. But we're only presenting it in this context because it's enough to say that you need both because there's a certain concern. We have to, because to reveal exactly what the issues are. Now, what's the reason? She says, the name of Hochi. The time of my why does Rav say that it's a compelling position you need to get in Miyun? Omer Ravacha Friday Rabbi Kalatsky get Shem Nisratza of Bikdushin. What does she need to get? Because maybe the father consented. We're not aware the father consented, but maybe he did consent. We had earlier on Yutes, if a man says, the father says to a third party, says to his daughter, this man will give you money for kiddushin, and you'll be married to that man. What's the halacha? And the daughter was a minor, accepts the money. She's mukadesha, she's married, right? David. If a father says to a man, give money to my daughter, and I consent to the marriage, and not the father's not receiving the money, the daughter's receiving money, she's married. So over here, when the man gives the money to the minor for kiddushin, what are not aware, whether the father's aware of it, is now knowing about this. We don't know, but it's possible he does know, and if he does know, maybe he consents to this. We'll see.
She has to know that she's acquiring that money for the purpose of...
No, she has to know nothing. She has to know that she's acquiring that she's taking the money. That much she does have to know, because that's Dasacher Smakner. No, not the agent. Not the agent at all. Not the agent of the father. She's a minor. A minor can't be an agent.
Right.
She's just the one receiving the money. Dasacher Smakner, when you give the money to her, that's the equivalent of giving the money to the father. Okay? Because she needs to get Shem and Sratza of the Kedushin, so therefore what kind of marriage is? It's a Kedushin D'Oraisa. Sricha Miyun. Why does she need Miyun? Shem Lo Nisratza of. Because maybe the father was not in agreement. So to reveal that it was only a rabbinical marriage, therefore that's why you need Miyun. Right? The Kedushin, the Omru, and what will they say? And Kedushin Tovsin Bachoso. Let's say the situation would be this. A man is married to a woman. Let's say a man married this minor, and he gave a get to her. Gave a get. So let's say we would only require a get. Okay, so he divorced her. Now he goes and marries the sister. It's not a valid marriage. It's not a valid marriage, correct? Wait. No. We're talking about if he would only give a get. So she didn't do me in. So what would they say?
She's still married.
No. She's not married. She's divorced. She's divorced. He gave her a get. He terminated that marriage.
There was a proper marriage.
And now that husband, who was married to the sister A, he marries sister B.
It was a theorized marriage.
What?
We'd say it was a theorized
So we'd say
marriage.
the second marriage is not a marriage.
Right.
So let's say now she would want to marry a third party. They'd say she doesn't need a get. You don't need anything. Why? Because that he gave a get initially, that tells him what kind of marriage was it? It was a Torah marriage. So Achos Ishto is not a marriage, as long as the first sister is alive. So now, if she marries a third party, they'll say the marriage is a valid marriage. But if you have miyun, so what would people say? It's not so simple. It was a valid marriage. The first marriage. It may have not been a Torah marriage. So if it may have not been a Torah marriage, so therefore she would need a get. He'd have to give a get to the second sister. Because he was never married to the first sister. No, he can't live with her. He can't cohabit with her. Definitely not. We're talking about this second sister now marrying a third party. So if she'd have a get, only get from the first, he gave a get to the first sister, and there's no miyun. So the people say definitely no get is required. Nothing's required. Right? And she married a third party without a get. But if you say she has miyun, that means the first marriage may have not been a Torah marriage. So that's the case. He may have been married to the second sister. So if she's married, she needs a get. She can't marry the third party unless she has a get. Once she gets a get, she can't marry a Kohen. Right? Very disturbing. Omer Rav Nachman. Now, Now the question is, why should we even consider the father consented to the marriage? The daughter marries this person without the knowledge of the father. So we say maybe the father consented. Why would he consent? There was a shidduch. Meaning initially there was a prearranged marriage and the father agreed together with the prospective husband that they will marry. And he said, definitely I want you to be my future son-in-law. But that was said previously. Now she goes and she accepts the money, but the father's not present. And he's not aware at that moment that the marriage is taking place. Initially he agreed. He initially agreed. No. There he says, I want you to go. There he's sending him to do the act. The case when you test, the father's sending you give my daughter money in marriage. Here he says, I agree and consent fully that you could marry my daughter. Now, subsequently, he goes and gives money to the daughter. But the father's unaware at the time that he's giving money to the daughter. He didn't retract, but you never know. But he may have retracted. He may have changed his mind. So that's why it's a suffix. That's the reason why the get is a suffix, and that's why you need the miyun. But factually, even if he's opposed to it or he doesn't consent, she being a minor, she's no different than the father, than the mother and the sisters and the brothers. She's able to marry herself off rabbinically, right? So that's it. Vushishotcho. Ula Omar. Afilu mineinu tzricha. Afal gav dishitcho. No. We're talking about the Oraisa, a Torah marriage. Because it was agreed by the father that this marriage should take place, that causes us to believe that the marriage is a valid marriage on a Torah level. On the Torah level. Okay? Ula Omar afilu miyaneinu tzricha. Ula says no, she doesn't need the get, she doesn't even need miyun, needs nothing. One say afilu miyaneinu tzricha afagav deshitcho. Even though there was a shidduch, she needs nothing. I want to see Rashi on this. Right where 4 lines before they get wider. We're saying initially she needs miyun and she needs a get. Haroeh shetzrachnu a get. If a person sees that we give this woman a get, so what are people going to say? That the father consented to this marriage, so she's a bona fide divorcee from that. So now if the husband who divorced Sister Ray marries Sister B, it's definitely not a kiddushin to Sister B, correct? Why? Because Torah says as long as the first sister is alive, you're not permitted to marry the second sister. So now he marries the sister. He does an act of kiddushin to the sister. So what are people going to say? He may send her off and she doesn't receive a get. Because what are people going to say? He was never since he was married to the first, you don't need a get to the second. Right? The second marriage definitely is not a marriage. You following? Again, you have Rachel and Leah. Rachel is a minor. He marries Rachel, okay, without the father's knowledge. And there's a shidduch. And we say he gives a get. No miyun, gives a get. So how do people interpret that? No, that they were married. It's a bona fide marriage. Yeah, okay, now, is the husband, is Yaakov permitted to marry Leah now? Definitely not. No. If the first marriage was a marriage, is he permitted to marry Leah? Wait, he's not permitted. Let's say he does the act of marriage. He gives her money in front of Eidim. We say it's nothing. Because it's Achas Krushoso. It's the sister of his divorcee. So what would she do now? She'd marry a third party, Leah. Leah is the second sister. She would go marry a third party, although she didn't receive a get. An act of kiddushin was done, but since it has no value, she's permitted to marry a third party without a get, right? because it has no value. So if we'd only give a get, that's what people are going to say. There's no reason for it to have a get. There's no need for a get. For Leah to remarry, there's no reason for her to have a get because she was never married to Yaakov. Because Yaakov at one time was married to Rachel, her sister. Correct?
And if there's miyun, then we assume that.
Wait a second. But if there's miyun, then we're saying it's not so simple. If there's miyun, why? If in fact she was married to.
Could be married to Leah.
No, wait. But if we only require to get. But if we say there's miyun, what does that say? Retroactive? No. Miyun means that means she was never married to Rachel. That means she may have been married to Leah. So now clearly Leah cannot remarry without a get. So that's what we're accomplishing now. Okay? There was a prearranged marriage before the kiddushin took place. Before he married Rachel, who's the minor, the father agreed that Yaakov should marry Rachel. Okay? Because now we have Shemitz Ratzeh, Kishishoma. Now that he has ultimately, the father wasn't at the wedding. Initially agreed this man should marry his daughter, and then afterwards they did the act of marriage without him being present. When he finds out, it's possible he agreed that he's still committed to his original consent. So now, it's kiddushin l'mafreya. It means the original kiddushin was done, was a valid kiddushin. Okay? Ula says, not only does she not need a get, but even miyun she doesn't need. Rachel, if she marries without the consent of the father, get she does not need, even by shidduch, even though it was prearranged, and miyun she does not need.
Meaning everybody knows that she was never married.
No. Just the opposite. Therefore, she's married. Therefore, he's married to Leah.
Right, I'm saying
Rachel was never married.
Rachel was never married to Yaakov.
It's not even a consideration.
Everyone knows the father was never married. Meaningly, Elisa, how would they know?
No, because there was no get given.
So they work backwards?
We'll say. Someone says, "Man de masniho lo masniho." Meaning like this: the one who says one does not say the other. What does that mean? Tama Gemara afilu shitcho, af mirei netzricho. So he says, which means doesn't make any sense. How could you say she doesn't need miyun? She is no worse. She's no worse than the brothers and the mother. Even if you say that what the father was opposed, how could Ula say she doesn't need miyun? Minimally, she shouldn't need miyun. To say she needs only get, okay, fine, right? No, because shitcho. No. If you say she needs a get, makes sense. Because since originally the father agreed to the marriage. The father originally agreed to the marriage. But let's say that means nothing. The father is opposed. But minimally, she should need miyun. How does she walk out without anything? She's no different than what? The mother and the brothers marrying her off. It's irrelevant. She independently, she has her own. She's empowered to do what the mother and the brothers could do. So therefore, minimally, she should need miyun. So how do we let her go off without miyun? To be continued.